Hey, what's going on, my friends, and welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Victor, and today I'm going to share with you 5 things I think you should know about this powerful upcoming full moon we have here October 20th, 2021. Number 1, I wrote down disruption energy, which initially doesn't sound very pleasant, doesn't sound very positive, and yet it is. It reminds me a lot of this book I read a long time ago. It's called Disrupt You by Jay Samit. It's an okay book. I'm not necessarily recommending it, but the book is about disruptors. What is a disruptor? An example of a disruptor would be CDs, compact discs. Remember when those came out? Compact CDs came out and they completely ended the huge, probably multi-million, maybe billion-dollar cassette tape industry. It wasn't necessarily good for the folks in that sort of line of work. However, CDs came in and they were a more efficient, higher quality way of enjoying music. So what comes out of this disruption energy is innovation. It's more efficiency, it's improvement, expansion, growth, higher level versions of things within our life. It's not necessarily pleasant to experience because, especially right now, we're at the end of Mercury retrograde, and at the end of it and also in the beginning and sometimes even the middle, it can feel like there's this like chaos energy brewing in the air, in a sense, and little mishaps, little things can kind of go wrong. An example, usually minor stuff, but yesterday I was at Whole Foods with my 5-year-old son Sebastian, and he saw there was a cart right when we got out of the car. He saw like a big cart and he ran over to it because he likes to push it. And I said, no, Bash, we're not gonna touch that, buddy. We're gonna get only a couple things today. We need a little cart. So he kind of left it alone. But apparently he touched it enough to where as we were walking away, the cart was taken by the wind and it flew into my car and left a decent sized scratch right there in the front bumper. Little things like that may be there, but this energy has the ability to shed light onto areas of your life, even your own psychology, your own sense of self and belief systems that could use a little revamping or maybe even some innovation. What would be like a new way to define yourself, to talk about yourself? A new way of going through life, a new schedule, a new routine, new something. Be open to that. Because again, out of this swirling, disruptive energy can come breakthroughs and better ways of living a better life. Number 2, I wrote down the end of the Hermit Phase of Awakening. I've called this cycle that I've noticed a lot of people tend to go through at times during their awakening process, the Hermit Phase. The Hermit Phase is basically a time where life situates you to where, in a sense, it wants you just to be, to explore yourself, to find yourself, to redefine yourself. But there's only so much we can do in a day, in a life. So usually when this phase has, in a sense, taken hold of you, you might find yourself out of work. You might find yourself feeling unproductive, a little bit stuck, uninspired, disconnected. It might feel like you want to do things. You're ready. You're like, Spirit, what's next? I'm ready to rock and roll. Just show me what to do. But you get impatient and you start trying things, forcing things, and you run into a load of resistance, all reminding you that you already know you're exactly where you're supposed to be right now. And that's pretty much not doing all that much. It's waiting. It's being just like that card, the Hermit, is like this person hanging upside down, but there's this look in their eyes where they're just like patient and present and ready to act when things do finally move forward. And the good news is it takes just a second. It takes 1 second to shift you out of the Hermit Phase and into moving forward, manifesting, creating, driving, going in your life, which I know a lot of you long to do. And if you remember, point number 2 said the ending of the Hermit Phase of Awakening. And I'll talk about in point 5 what that's going to look like, which is extremely exciting. But right now is the time to really allow yourself just to be. I know I went through my hermit phase years ago, and I was living in South Florida at the time. I wasn't working, and I felt really bad about that. I'm a father. I had even a daughter at that time years ago, and a wife, and a house, and the bills coming, and I had money going out, no money coming in. People, my parents and folks saying like, "What's your plan, Vic? What are you doing? Oh, you're not working? Well, what do you plan on doing?" That kind of thing. And I was also having that same discussion with myself. Victor, what are you doing? Why aren't you working? What's next? You don't have a plan? You don't have a plan? What are you going to do? What are you thinking? And I felt like a loser, like a sloth, just sitting there like a bump on the log. I didn't want to be a bump on the log. I was ready to go, but I just knew it was time just to be. And I'll share this quick story that I shared in an email recently. It's kind of a case in point. So out of this sort of frenzied state I found myself in, when I was resisting what I knew was just a temporary phase to be, I decided, I woke up one morning and said, I'm getting a job. I refuse to sit here idle another moment. And I went to LA Fitness. Not to dog them or anything, hopefully no issues with that. But I went to LA Fitness and I applied for a job, and I'll never forget what happened when I walked up to the manager. I walked up for my interview, and the manager had his back turned to me. And I was like, "Hey, excuse me, sir, my name is Victor. I'm here for the personal training job." And he waited a minute. He kind of gestured like, "Wait," So I just sort of stood there patiently waiting. And eventually he spun around in his little chair, and once I caught eyes with him, I knew in an instant. My whole body was screaming, no. It was nothing against this person, but I could just tell this was not for me. I shouldn't be here in the first place. I'm not going to enjoy working here, etc. And finally, he offered me $7.50 per training session. And then it was like, okay, now I know. Now I can take comfort in what I already knew, what you might already know. The world works in cycles. Life unfolds in cycles and seasons. And we'll talk more about that in a minute here. But sometimes we need to just be. Most of us have lived extremely busy lives where we are doing, not really taking time to reflect, not really taking time to heal, to grow, to integrate, to redefine ourselves as we change and grow through life. We've just been going, doing in this sort of Western way. And sometimes when your awakening happens, life, the force of life, your spirit, it's almost like it starts to kind of have a will of its own, and it says, no, you need to just chill. You need to just look within. I know you think you got to be doing things, but you really don't, because you're not aware yet that in a week, a download's going to come. It's going to change everything. But in the meantime, yield, pause, and reflect. Number 3, less is more when it comes to manifestation in this new energy. And a lot of us are learning that. One step forward that is inspired, where you are aligned with life, can create so much more impact, positive impact in your life in terms of being a creator than an infinite amount of just forcing things. That doesn't work anymore. It's time to be wise, calculated, mindful, in tune with what is best in any given moment. It's kind of like a martial artist. A real, true martial artist knows how to wait for the perfect timing to deliver the greatest impact with the least amount of effort. Reminds me of this guy named Royce Gracie. He's the one who popularized jiu-jitsu, Brazilian jiu-jitsu in America. And there's this organization called the Ultimate Fighting Championship, UFC. Might not be your thing. I'm a fan. But anyway, for a long time it was like filled with these big, oaf-like, barbaric, sort of crazy strongmen, boxer type guys. And this little bitty guy, Royce Gracie, maybe like 150, 60 pounds, would come in with his little gi, his little martial arts uniform, and he dominated everybody. Guys that were twice his size, he would take down because he was efficient. He was smooth. He knew when to act. He knew when to wait. And he knew how to use leverage. And right now you might be learning that forcing things is not really producing any results, and your body will let you know that This is unsustainable. You're exhausting yourself by trying, by willing, by forcing with that impatience. Why not just be the hermit, if that last part applies to you, and wait for the perfect download, the perfect timing, the perfect inspiration, which will come exactly when you need it. And you can move the needle forward in your life so much, so dramatically when it's aligned. And you might, in a practical way, just be noticing, being able to observe your life and see what's giving you the biggest bang for your buck. It reminds me of this it's like a business concept called the 80-20 rule. It's a general rule that basically says 80% of your revenue, your results, come from only 20% of your effort. And right now, this big, bright full moon is going to be shining a light on what is your 20%. What are some of the things you're most passionate about, the most aligned with? Those are the things you really want to double down on, because it's going to allow you to have more time, more freedom, more energy in your life, and, strange enough, go forward faster in a bigger and more impactful way. And number 4, one of the ways in which this is going to happen is right now we're becoming, or being invited by the universe in a sense, to become more cyclical, more seasonal. A couple years ago, I attended this Tony Robbins event called Date with Destiny. No, it was actually a different one, Business Mastery. And he asked people, what season is your business in? And this applies to you, don't worry, it's not just a business coaching call here. What season? Are you in the winter phase? Are you in the spring? Are you in the summer? He said every business, our lives, of course, have seasons. And there are pros and cons and things to benefit, things to sacrifice within each and every season. But we're so now linear, we're such linear thinking of people where it reminds me of like Phoenix as an example. Phoenix is a place where it's like hot all year round. And there really aren't that many seasons. So it's like you kind of lose touch. A lot of us have lost touch with this cyclical nature, and we resist it. A lot of us resist the winters. We resist the times when it's okay just to be, just to reflect and to grow, and to really just sit by the fire and read a book and sort of feed our inner magician, nourish our soul, heal and replenish our body. But then spring's gonna come along and boom, it's time to go. It's time to plant seeds. It's time to act. It's time to move. And that's more exciting. A lot of us, we cling and we long for the spring, but we can't always live like that because we burn out. We run out of our gusto and our creative juices stop flowing. And it's all about really honoring the seasons and being aware, and it's not hard, being aware of what season are you in. And trusting that. It's like my friend Aaron Dowd, always uses this analogy, and it's perfectly fitting for this. He says, a tree doesn't fret and cling to the leaves as they die, as autumn comes. It knows spring's going to come again in a few months, and then new leaves will blossom. It's about being that tree right now and trusting the seasons. Trusting that night will turn into day. And then when night comes back, it's cool. You watch some Netflix, you hang out, you enjoy the evening because morning's coming. And that's what this full moon is about. It's kind of the tail end of all of this. It's kind of the tail end of a wintry type of cycle, a tail end to this hermit phase of being and learning and reflecting and waiting and dealing with this freaking disruption energy, modifying, improving, tweaking, because pretty soon it's starting to come. The sun is starting to peek out through the clouds and it's going to be spring again and you're going to be asked to move forward. But if you can really make the most of your winters, your spring is going to be awesome. It's going to be off the chain. You're going to be so aligned, so inspired, so tapped into these new downloads coming, causing you to go forward in an extremely exciting way that you're going to see the value of the winter. But the winter is ending. Spring is coming. Number 5, perhaps the most important theme of this entire energy right now. It's only one word. Trust. We know we should trust. We try to trust. It's hard to trust. It's hard to trust. But the more we can trust, the more we can just trust that life has our back. Life is always working for us. the smoother this ride of life will be. The further we will go, the more we expand, the more we grow, the happier we become. But it's not easy. I'm going to share with you a story real briefly before I go here that is kind of a case in point and more of a grounded example of what you might be wrestling with right now exactly in your life. Years ago, I was a medical marijuana grower. I had my whole basement was converted into a grow room. It was legal, but that was how I made my money. And I felt this strong knowing that I needed to stop growing marijuana. I just knew it. I just knew it for a while. And I could even feel like almost like a dissonant energy every time I'd go down there and work on the grow room. And eventually all these complications and problems started happening, these wild disruptions into what I thought I needed in my life. And I found myself in this place. I would wake up in the middle of the night sometimes with this like pit in my stomach because, you know, when we're resting at night, sometimes it's easier to see more clearly where we are in our life. And at that time when I'd wake up at night, I would know, Victor, you are not where you're supposed to be. You are clinging like a little child desperately to the grow. And my mind was like, yeah, I need the grow. It's how I make my money. I have 3 children. I have a wife. I have pets. I have bills to pay. What are you talking about, Spirit? Why would you make me think I need to let go of the grow? But I knew it. And I was so frustrated. And I would lie awake at night with this pit rolling around in fetal position because this pit was eating away at me in my stomach. And then sometimes in those restless nights, I'd find myself like, okay, fuck it, I'm gonna do it. I'd go downstairs. We had a 2-story house. I'd go down both sets of stairs. I'd come down and I would turn the lights off in that grow room. And I would feel that weight lift. That pit of anxiety gone instantly. It was like, now I'm finally aligned with where I need to be in life. And I'd go back upstairs and I'd be so proud of myself thinking like, yeah, I knew it. I made the right choice. I'd go and I'd sleep like a baby. And I'd wake up the next day and the reality would set in of what I had just done. Victor, you just cut off your only source of income. What are you going to do? And my mind would start going and I'd freak out and I'd run back downstairs and I'd turn the lights on. And which by the way, turning the lights off and on is a huge deal with your medical marijuana grower. It's not something you can just do. It can mess it all up, just as simple as that. But I'd turn the lights on, I'd pray to God it's okay, and I'd tend to them. And I literally did that back and forth crazy ass scenario multiple times. I'd wake up at night, I'd go downstairs, I'd turn the lights off. I'd wake up the next morning, I'd freak the fuck out, I'd go back downstairs, I'd turn them on, and I went like this, like a freaking maniac for a while there. Well, one night, I woke up, same thing happened. I knew I needed to go turn the freaking lights off. And I knew myself. I knew if I turn those lights off, I'm just gonna turn them on the next day. So I went down there with these big like garden shears and I chopped those plants down. The next morning, I freaked out. But at this point, I'd burned my bridges. There was nothing I could do. And it wasn't long until one idea popped into my mind. One simple little idea. And it was at that time, for me, it was I could move to San Diego, which was a dream of mine and my family's, by selling our house and moving into a little RV. And as weird as that sounds to you, that idea was new. It never occurred to me. It resonated. It seemed exciting. I got all excited about living this minimalistic lifestyle. And within a matter of months, I was living my dream life. Months later, I would go to the beach every day. When people were going to work, I was driving to the beach with my laptop and my camera, and I would shoot YouTube videos, and I would do coaching. I was making more money within months later than I was with the grow. I was living where I wanted to live so badly, San Diego. I had more time with my family. I was living my purpose. I was aligned with life. I was aligned with my purpose and aligned with life. And that is the potential. That's where all of this is leading us right now. But in order to really do this fully, we have to trust. It was hard to trust, but I chose to trust. After like 17 different back and forth, I finally said, I'm gonna trust. And guess what? Months later, higher self was like, there you go, buddy. All those disruptions that you resisted, all that what you perceive to be stagnancy, all those different thoughts about yourself and where you should be and where you should be in life, all of it led you here. A dream you couldn't have even dreamed yourself. Only Spirit can deliver so boldly. Now's the time to trust and let your Spirit deliver you to where you can go, to your true potential.